Chapter 5. Hey, Firepaw, wake up. Graypaw's meow broke into Firepaw's dream. He had been chasing a squirrel up and up into the topmost branches of a tall oak. Training begins at sunrise. Dustpaw and Sandpaw are already up, Graypaw added urgently. Firepaw stretched sleepily, then remembered. Today was his first day of training. He leaped to his paws. His drowsiness evaporated as excitement surged through his veins. Graypaw was just giving him a hasty wash. Between looks, he meowed. I've just spoken to Lionheart. Ravenpaw won't be training with us until his wound is better. He'll probably stay at Spotterleaf's den for another day or two as well. Dustpaw and Sandpaw are on hunting duty, so Lionheart thought you and I could train with him in Tigerclaw this morning. We better hurry, though, he added. They'll be waiting. Graypaw led Firepaw quickly through the gorse entrance of the camp and up the side of the rock-strewn valley. As they climbed over the crest of the ravine, a cool breeze ruffled their fur. Fat, white clouds raced across the blue sky overhead. Firepaw felt fierce joy well up inside of him, and he followed Graypaw down a tree-shaded slope and into a sandy hollow. Tigerclaw and Lionheart were indeed waiting, sitting a few tail lengths apart on the sun-warmed sand. In future, I expect you both to be punctual, growled Tigerclaw. Don't be too severe, Tigerclaw. It was a busy night last night. I expect they were tired, meowed Lionheart gently. You have not been assigned a mentor yet, Firepaw, he went on. For now, Tigerclaw and I will share your training. Firepaw nodded enthusiastically, his tail head high, unable to disguise his delight of having two such great warriors as his mentors. Come, meowed Tigerclaw impatiently. Today we are going to show you the edges of our territory so that you know where you will be hunting and what boundaries you need to protect. Graypaw. It won't do you any harm to remind yourself of the clan's outer limits. Without another word, Tigerclaw leaped up and bounded out of the sandy hollow. Lionheart nodded to Graypaw and then took off with equal speed. Firepaw scrambled after them, his paws slipping on the soft sand. The trees were thick in this part of the forest, birch and ash trees overshadowed by mighty oaks. The ground was carpeted with crisp, dead leaves that rustled beneath their paws. Tigerclaw paused to spray his scent on a thick clip of ferns. The other cats stopped beside him. There's a two-legged path here, murmured Lionheart. Use your nose, Firepaw. Can you smell anything? Firepaw sniffed. There was a faint scent of two-leg and the stronger scent of a dog, familiar to him from his old home. A two-leg has walked his dog here, but they're gone now, he mewed. Good, meowed Lionheart. Do you think it is safe to cross? Firepaw sniffed again. The odors were weak and seemed overlaid with fresher forest smells. Yes, he replied. Tigerclaw nodded, and the four cats stalked out from beneath the ferns and crossed the sharp stones of the narrow two-legged path. The trees beyond were pine. They grew tall, straight, row after row. It was easy to walk silently here. The ground was thick with layers of dead needles, which prickled against Firepaw's pads but felt spongy underneath. There was no undergrowth to hide in here, and Firepaw sensed tension in the other cats as they stalked unprotected between the tree trunks. Two Legs put these trees here, meowed Tigerclaw. They cut them down with foul-smelling creatures, which spew enough fumes to make a kit go blind. They then take the fallen trees to the tree-cut place that lies near here. Firepaw stopped and listened for the roar of the tree-eater, which he has heard before. The tree-cut place will be silent for a few moons more until the time of Greenleaf, explained Graypaw. Noticing his pause, the cats added padded on through the pine forest. Two-Leg Place lies in that direction, meowed Tiger Claw, flicking his tail to one side. No doubt you can smell it, Firepaw. Today, however, we will head the other way. Eventually, they reached another two-leg path that marked the far edge of a pine forest. They quickly crossed over into the shade bushes of oak woods beyond. But Firepaw still sensed anxiety in the other cats. We're approaching RiverClan territory, whispered Graypaw. The Sunning Rocks are over there. He pointed with his soft muzzle to a treeless mound of boulders. Firepaw felt his fur stand on end. This was where Redtail had been slain. Lionheart stopped by a flat gray rock. This is the boundary between ThunderClan and RiverClan territory. RiverClan rules the hunting ground beside the Great River. Now, he meowed, breathe deeply, Firepaw. The pungent smell of unfamiliar cats hit the roof of his mouth. He was surprised of how different it smelled from the warm cat scent of ThunderClan, and how he was also surprised at just how familiar and comforting the ThunderClan scents seemed to him already. That's the smell of RiverClan, Tigerclaw growled beside him. Remember it will. Well, it'll be the strongest at the boundary because their warriors have scent marked the trees along here. With these words, the dark tabby lifted his tail and sprayed his own mark on the flat rock. We'll follow this boundary line as it leads straight to the 4 trees, Lionheart meows. He set off quickly, away from Sunning Rocks, followed by Tiger Claw, Graypaw, and Firepaw trotted after them. What is 4 trees? Firepaw panted. It's where the territories of all 4 clans meet, replied Graypaw. There are 4 great oaks there, as old as the clans. Be quiet, ordered Tiger Claw. Don't forget how close we are to enemy territory. The 2 apprentices fell silent, and Firepaw concentrated on walking silently. They crossed a shallow stream, keeping their paws dry by leaping from boulder to boulder across the pebbly riverbed. By the time they reached 4 trees, Firepaw wasn't feeling completely out of breath, and his paws ached. He wasn't used to traveling so far and so fast. He was quite relieved when Lionheart and Tiger Claw led them out of the thick woods and stopped at the brow of a bush-covered slope. It was sun-high now. The clouds had cleared and the wind had dropped below. Below the dazzling sunlight stood 4 enormous oaks, their dark green crowns reaching almost to the steep slope. As Firepaw told you, meowed Lionheart to Firepaw, this is 4 trees, where the territories of all 4 clans meet. Wind Clan governs the high ground ahead of us, where the sun sets. You won't be able to catch their scent today. The wind is blowing towards them, but you'll learn it soon enough. And Shadow Clan holds power over there, in the darkest part of the forest, added Graypaw, flicking his head sideways. The elders say that the cold winds from the north blow over Shadow Clan cats and chill their hearts. So many clans, Firepaw explained, and so well organized, he added to himself, remembering Smudge's lurid tales of wildcats wreaking terror in the forest. You see now why prey is so precious, meowed Lionheart. Why we must fight to protect what little we have. But that seems foolish. Why can't the clans work together and share their hunting grounds instead of fighting each other? Firepaw suggested boldly. A shocked silence greeted his words. Tiger Claw was the first to reply. That is treacherous thinking, kitty pet, he snapped. Don't be too fierce, Tiger Claw, warned Lionheart. The ways of the clans are new to this apprentice. He looked at Firepaw. You speak from your heart, young Firepaw. This will make you a strong warrior one day. Or it might make him give in to kitty pet rakiness right at the moment of attack. Lionheart glanced briefly at Tigerclaw before continuing. The four clans do come together peacefully in a gathering each moon. Here, he bent his head towards the four mighty oaks below, is where we meet. The truce lasts for as long as the moon is at its fullest. Then there must be a meeting very soon, Firepaw suggested, remembering how bright the moonlight had been the night before. Indeed there is, answered Lionheart, sounding impressed. Tonight, in fact, the gatherings are very important because they allow the clans to come together in peace for one night. But you must understand that longer alliances bring you more trouble than they're worth. It is our clan loyalty that makes us strong. Tiger Claw meowed in agreement. If you weaken that loyalty, you weaken our chances of survival. Firepaw nodded. I understand, he mewed. Come on, meowed Fireheart, standing up. Let's keep moving. They paced along the ridge of the valley where four trees stood. Now they were heading away from the sun as it began to sink in the afternoon sky. They crossed the stream at a place where it was narrow enough to leap over in one jump. Firepaw sniffed the air. A new scent touched his mouth, strong and sour. Which clan is that? He asked. Shadow Clan, answered Tigerclaw grimly. We are traveling along their border. Keep your wits about you. Firepaw, fresher scents mean a Shadow Clan border is in the area. As Firepaw nodded, he heard a new noise. He sniffed, but the other cats kept their pace, heading straight for the ominous rumble. What is that? He called, trotting to catch up with them. You'll see in a moment, replied Lionheart. Firepaw peered through the trees ahead. They seemed to be getting thinner, letting a broad band of sunlight. Are we at the edge of the woods? He asked. Then he stopped and took a deep breath. The green forest scents were overlaid with other strange dark smells. This time it was not a cat scent, but an odor that reminded him of his old two-leg home. And the rumbling was getting louder, a ceaseless roar that made the ground tumble and ached in Firepaw's ears. This is the Thunder Path, meowed Tigerclaw. Firepaw followed as Lionheart led them toward an edge of the forest. Then he sat down, and all four cats looked out. Firepaw could see a gray, path-like river cutting its way through the forest. The hard gray stone stretched ahead him so far that the trees on the other side seemed blurred and tiny. Firepaw shuddered at the bitter smell that rose from the path. Next moment he leaped back, his fur bristling as a gigantic monster roared past. The branches of the trees on either side flapped madly at the wind that chased the speeding monster. Firepaw stared around at the other cat, his eyes wide, unable to speak. He had seen paths like this before, near his old two-leg home, but never this wide, nor with monsters so swift and fierce. Scared me the first time, too, remarked Paw. But at least it helps to keep Shadow Clan warriors from crossing into our territory. The Thunder Path runs for many paw steps along our boundary line, and don't worry, those monsters never seem to leave the Thunder Path. You'll be fine as long as you don't go too near. It's time we return to camp, meowed Lionheart. You've seen all of our boundaries now. But we avoid Snake Rocks, even though it is a way around is longer. An untrained apprentice would be easy prey for an adder, and I expect you're getting tired, Firepaw. Firepaw couldn't help but feeling relieved at the thought of returning to his camp. His head was spinning with all the new smells and sights. And Lionheart was right. He was tired and hungry. He fell in behind Graypaw as the cats turned away from the thunder path and headed back into the forest. The dewy smells of the evening filled the air. Firepaw made his way through the gorse entrance into ThunderClan. Freshkill was waiting for them. Firepaw and Graypaw took their share from the pile that laid in a shady part of the clearing and carried it to the tree stump outside their quarters. Dustpaw and Sandpaw were already there, munching hungrily. "Hi there, kitty pet," mewed Dustpaw, narrowing his eyes scornfully at Firepaw. "Enjoy the food we caught for you. And who knows, maybe you might even learn to catch your own one day," sneered Sandpaw. "Are you two still on hunting duty?" asked Graypaw innocently. "Never mind. We've been patrolling our territory borders. You'll be glad to know all is safe." "I'm sure the other clans were terrified when they smelled you two coming," yowled Dustpaw. "They didn't even dare show their faces," retorted Graypaw, unable to hide his anger. "Well, we'll ask them tonight when we see them at the clan gathering." "Are you going?" Firepaw blurted out, impressed in spite of the apprentice hostility. "Of course," replied Dustpaw. "It's a great honor, you know. But don't worry, we'll tell you all about it in the morning." Graypaw ignored Dustpaw's gloating and started eating his fresh kill. Firepaw was hungry too and crouched down to eat. He couldn't help but feeling a twinge of envy that Dustpaw and Sandpaw were actually going to meet the other clans tonight. A loud call from Bluestar made Firepaw look up. He watched several of the clan's warriors and elders gather in the clearing. It was time for the clan party to leave the gathering. Dustpaw and Sandpaw leaped to their feet and trotted to join the other cats. "Bye, you two," called Sandpaw over her shoulders. "Have a nice, quiet evening." The assembled cats stalked out of camp entrance in a single file with Bluestar at the head. Her fur glowed like silver in the moonlit light, and she looked calm and confident as she led her clan to the brief truce between old enemies. "Have you ever been to a gathering?" Firepaw asked Graypaw wistfully. "Not yet," replied Graypaw, crunching loudly on a mouse bone. "But it won't be long now. Just you wait. All the apprentices get to go sometime." The two apprentices ate the rest of their meal in silence. When they had finished, Graypaw wandered over to Firepaw and began to groom his head. Together they washed, sharing tongues. Firepaw seemed to see the other cats do it when he first arrived. Then, tired after the long trust, they pushed their way into the den. They settled down in their nest and quickly fell asleep. The following morning, Graypaw and Firepaw arrived early in the sandy hollow. They had crept out before Sandpaw and Dustpaw woke. Firepaw had been eager to hear about the gathering, but Graypaw had dragged him away. "You'll hear about it all later. If I know these two, they'll be yapping about it all day," he had meowed. It promised to be another warm day, and this time Ravenpaw came to join them. Thanks to Spotted Leaf, his wound was healing well. Graypaw played around, scooping leaves into the air and leaping after them. Firepaw watched, his tail twitching in amusement. Ravenpaw sat quietly on one side of the hollow, looking tense and unhappy. "Cheer up, Ravenpaw," called Graypaw. "I know you don't like training, but you're not usually this miserable." The sense of Lionheart and Tigerclaw warned the apprentices of their approach, and Ravenpaw mewed. "I suppose I'm just worried about my shoulder getting hurt again." At that moment, Tigerclaw emerged from the bushes, closely followed by Lionheart. "Warriors should suffer their pain silently," growled Tigerclaw. He looked at Ravenpaw straight in the eye. "You need to learn to hold your tongue." Ravenpaw flinched and dropped his eyes to the ground. "Tigerclaw's a bit grumpy today," Graypaw whispered into Firepaw's ear. Lionheart glanced at his apprentice sternly and announced, "Today we are going to practice stalking." Now, there is a big difference between creeping up on a rabbit and creeping up on a mouse. Can any of you tell me why? Firepaw had no idea, and Ravenpaw seemed to have taken Tiger Claw's comment to heart, and he was holding his tongue. "Come on," snorted Tiger Claw impatiently. It was Greypaw who answered. "Because a rabbit will smell you before he sees you, but a mouse will feel your paw steps through the ground before he even smells you." "Exactly, Greypaw. So what must you bear in mind when hunting mice?" "Step lightly." Lionheart looked approvingly at him. "Quite right, Firepaw. You must take all your weight onto your haunches, so that your paws make no impact on the forest floor. Let's try it." Firepaw watched as Greypaw and Ravenpaw immediately dropped into a stalking crouch. "Nicely done, Greypaw," meowed Lionheart as the two apprentices began to move forward stealthily. "Keep your rear down, Ravenpaw. You look like a duck," spat Tiger Claw. "Now you try it, Firepaw." Firepaw crouched down and he began to creep across the forest floor. He felt himself fall instinctively to the right position, and he stepped forward as silently and lightly as he could. He felt a glow of pride that his muscles responded so smoothly. "Well, it's obvious you know nothing but softness," growled Tiger Claw. "You stalk like a lumbering kitty pet. Do you think dinner is going to come and lie down in your food dish waiting to be eaten?" Firepaw sat up quickly as Tiger Claw spoke, a little taken aback by his harsh words. He listened carefully to the warrior, determined to get everything right. His pace and forward movement will come later, but his crouch is perfectly balanced. Lionheart pointed out mildly. "Which is better than Ravenpaw, I suppose," complained Tiger Claw. He cast a scornful look at the black cat. "Even after 2 moons of training, you're still putting all your weight on your left side." Ravenpaw looked even more dejected, and Firepaw couldn't help himself from blurting out, "His injury is bothering him, that's all." Tiger Claw whipped his head around and glared at Firepaw. "Injuries are a fact of life. He should be able to adapt. Even you, Firepaw, have learned something this morning. If Ravenpaw picked up things as quickly as you, he'd be credit to me instead of embarrassment." "Imagine being shown up by a kitty pet," he spat angrily at his apprentice. Firepaw felt his fur prickle with discomfort. He couldn't meet Ravenpaw's eyes, so he looked at his paws. "Well, I'm more lopsided than a one-legged badger," mewed Greypaw, breaking off from his normal, careful stalking to a stagger comically across the clearing. "I think I'll have to settle for hunting stupid mice. They won't stand a chance. I shall wander up to them and sit on them until they surrender." "Concentrate, young Greypaw. This is no time for your jokes," meowed Lionheart sternly. "Perhaps you might focus your mind better if you tried your stalking for real." All 3 apprentices looked up brightly. "I want each of you to try catching real prey," meowed Lionheart. "Ravenpaw, you look beside the owl tree. Greypaw, there might be something in that big bramble patch over there. And you, Firepaw, follow the rabbit track over that rise. You'll find the dry bed of a winter stream. You may find something there." The 3 apprentices bounded away, even Ravenpaw finding some extra energy for this challenge. With the blood pouring in his ears, Firepaw crept slowly up over the rise. Sure enough, he streambled cut through the trees ahead of him. In leaf fall, he guessed it. It would carry the rainwater away from the forest and into the great river that cut through River Cran territory. Now it was dry. Firepaw crept quietly down the bank and crouched on its sandy floor. He felt every sense felt on fire with tension. Silently, he scanned the empty stream for signs of life. He watched for a tiny movement, his mouth open so wide he could pick up the smallest scent. His ears twisted forward. Then he smelled mouse. He recognized the odor instantly, remembering his first taste the night before. Wild energy surged through him, but remained motionless, trying desperately to pinpoint the prey. He strained his ears forward until he picked up the rapid pulsing of a tiny mouse heart. Then a flash of brown caught his eye. The creature was scrambling through the long grass that draped the edges of the stream. Firepaw shifted closer, remembering to keep his weight on his haunches until he was within striking distance. Then he pushed back hard on his hind legs, sprang up, kicking sand as he rose. The mouse raced away, but Firepaw was quicker, and he scooped it up into the air in one paw. He threw it onto the sand stream bed and lunged on top of it. He killed it quickly with one sharp bite. Firepaw carefully lifted the warm body between his teeth and returned with his tail held high to the hollow, where Tigerclaw and Lionheart waited. He had made his first kill. He was a true ThunderClan apprentice now.